people. Finished a book, volume 5 of Gibbon's Rome. So I'm getting closer to what I consider to be the Mount Everest of the literary world. This one was 647 pages. It took me a little while, maybe 10 days to read it. A lot of this book, Gibbon is kind of setting the stage for volume 6, for his last volume, which would be the final destruction of the Eastern Roman Empire. He kind of bounces back and forth a little bit here, and he tries to condense some periods. But let's get into my notes here. I'm on page 49, and Gibbon is really laying out what he hopes to accomplish with this volume and with the next one. And then he just fast forwards through dozens of emperors of Constantinople. I have to admit that Gibbon lost me a couple times in this book, and a lot of it is because of the names. My fucking cat's meowing to get back inside there. The Eastern Roman Empire had the irritating habit of recycling names. We're on Constantine the 11th here, and I know it goes to the 13th too. I had crossed out the 10th and wrote the 11th, and I got tired of doing that. He gets into Charlemagne and the Franks. There's a lot more fighting that goes on in Italy between all kinds of people. At the end, you got the fucking Saracens are there. The Saracens and the Franks and the Greeks. And they only call them the Greeks because that's kind of what composes the Eastern Roman Empire towards the end. Charlemagne and the Franks defeated the Lombards and the Saxons, but really just incorporated them, notwithstanding the massacre of the Saxons. There was supposed to have been 4,000 of them beheaded in one day, and that was a religious thing. The Saxons kind of maintained their pagan ancestry up until the very end there. I'm gonna have to go and let the cat in. The cat is meowing. Sorry about that. Gibbon displays his sense of humor a little bit here. Charlemagne, sometimes they refer to him as Charlemagne the Great, and Gibbon says, comparing Charlemagne to the ruins of Palmyra, the ruins of Palmyra derive a casual splendor from the nakedness of the surrounding desert. And what Gibbon's trying to say there is there wasn't anybody else around, and it made Charlemagne look great. Charlemagne was great only because of the lack of other great men. Germany and France separated on the death of Charlemagne. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with, where people come from. Where did the Franks come from? Where did the English come from? Who are the Normans? Because even if they tell me, I actually had to Google who are the Normans, and the Normans are like a mixture of Scandinavian, Saxon, and they say Gallo-Romans, which are French, what today we refer to as France, but had originally come from Rome. But even the Saxons and even the Scandinavians, they originally came from somewhere else. Charlemagne fights a 33 33-year war with the Saxons. Uh, uh, the last of the Frankish kings was called Charles the Fat. Uh, and then comes a guy named Otho, and there's several of the Othos, and they're Saxons. Some of them even become, I don't even know why they still refer to them as an emperor of the Western Roman Empire, because the, the, the empire is gone. I go a long ways. I jump all the way to page 216 without any notes. And what it is they're talking about Muhammad, which they don't call Muhammad. They call him Muhammad. Uh, the rise of Islam, the writing of the Quran, and I'm supposed to read something here. I want to find it too. It's good. This image of a carnal paradise, and Gibbon is referring to what the Muslims say heaven is going to be like with, the virgins. This image of a carnal paradise has provoked the indignation, perhaps the envy of the monks. They declaim against the impure religion of Mahomet, and his modest apologists are driven to the poor excuse of figures and allegories. I just wanted to include that because of the line about perhaps the envy. Again, we jump another 100 pages. Islam spreads through North Africa. The story of the Library of Alexandria, where they tell them to burn the books. Gibbon is of the opinion that never happened. The Muslims jump across to Spain, and I don't know, the Goths of Spain, the Gothic nation of the Spanish, the Iberian Peninsula, just reminded me a little bit of the Vandals of North Africa. After 100 years of peace, they seem to lose their military spirit, and they're easily conquered. And then I jump like 150 pages, and my next note says, the closer you get to the Crusades, the more fantastic and unreliable become the stories of miracles. Roger the Norman takes Sicily from the Saracens, and again, Gibbon kind of loses me there. In one page, he goes from Roger to Robert, and I reread the page a couple times, and I'm like, what the fuck? This guy's name changes in the middle of a page? But no, Roger and Robert were brothers. And I go all the way to the end of the book here. It ends with the Seljuk Turks and the seeds of the Crusades. I'm supposed to read something here. At the report. Oh, they're talking about when the Seljuk Turks take Jerusalem. Jerusalem had kind of been not really an open city, but the Saracens tolerated the presence of some Christians. But the Seljuk Turks didn't, and they kind of demolished some churches. At the report of this sacrilege, the nations of Europe were astonished and afflicted, but instead of arming in the defense of the Holy Land, they contented themselves with burning or banishing the Jews as the secret advisors of the impious barbarian. And, you run into that more and more as the Crusades begin. A lot of these people begin their big march, and all they do is come upon the next city filled with Jews, and they kill them, and then they go home. So, I got one more to go, but I got to take a break from Gibbon. I got to go to something that's a little bit more easier reading, and I look back at when I started, or when I finished the first volume, and that was on 2/27/2019, so hopefully I can finish volume 6 before 2/27/2020, and that'll give me like an even year for doing these. Thank you.